Hello guys, Chris here and welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing the 50 series GPUs from across the generations in Sons of the Forest. Starting with the RTX 3050 released back in January of 2022. This one is the Gigabyte Eagle model of the card, followed by the most popular GPU on Steam, the GTX 1650. This one is the Mini ITX OC model of the card, released back in April of 2019, and it's also the GDDR5 version. Then we have this awesome single slot GTX 1050 2GB model. It's from Inno3D and it released back in October of 2016. Next we have the GTX 950 released in August of 2015. This is the Gigabyte OC model of the card. Next is the GTX 750 released in February of 2014. This one is a 1GB GDDR5 version of the card from Medion. Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, and there was no 800 series on the desktop side of things. I'm not testing laptop stuff, of course. Then we have the GTX 650 released back in September of 2012. This one is an EVGA model with 1GB of GDDR5 memory. And finally, since the 500 series didn't have a 50 SKU, only a 550 Ti, I'll leave that for another video with all of the Ti's. That should be fun. We have the grandpa of all of these cards, the GTS 450. It wasn't even a GTX card back in the days. It also has 1GB of GDDR5 memory and it's from EVGA. Let's play the game now, shall we? And here we are. We got the 3050 installed with the latest Nvidia drivers as usual, and over in Tech Power-Ups GPUs you can see all of the GPU specs. Resizable bar is enabled. We got 8GB of GDDR6 VRAM to work with, and over on the left I'm pairing it with a Ryzen 7 5800X 3D and 32GB of RAM, 3600MHz in dual channel CL14. This is only so we don't bottleneck the GPUs in any way, shape or form. We're testing GPU performance after all, so we don't want CPU bottlenecks. Let's go over the settings first. I'm playing at 1080p resolution, very adequate for a 3050, using the medium settings preset with SMAA and no dynamic resolution, but I will test DLSS a bit later. Okay, Kelvin, let's go. Let's do this. Start counting our FPS. 70 is looking in this direction. This is not intensive whatsoever. Of course, where the intensive area starts is in the forest. What time is it, by the way? Is it morning? Yes, it is. 7:11 a.m. It's looking pretty good here on medium settings, this game. Ah, you came to see us. How's it going? Oh, what the heck? Oh, boy. I am so sorry, actually. I just want to take a look at you, okay? That is so weird, dude. Why does she have 3 arms and 3 legs? So if you're after a 60 FPS experience with a 3050, unfortunately, I have bad news for you. It's getting 50s and drops into the 40s. The stuttering issues that you see in this video are just completely normal. It's not due to like the VRAM or the GPU that we're testing. It's just the game will stutter every time it needs to load new assets in, and that's just normal. I guess they can actually iron out that with a future patch or something. It's still in early access after all. But yeah, it's looking pretty good on medium settings, guys, even with a lot of things disabled like micro shadowing and stuff like that. Now, I've not seen an area where the FPS drop by a lot yet. Like, I've been to a little bit of a forest, a little bit of an enemy camp already. I've been in a fight as well, and it seems to be pretty stable, so you can rest assured that it will get around 60 FPS on average. Now, we do have DLSS support on this GPU. It's an RTX card after all. At 1080p, I will set it to quality. I don't recommend you to go lower than quality at this res. It starts looking really soft. And unfortunately, DLSS in this game doesn't give you a huge boost in performance, but it is enough to put us above 60 FPS on average, I would say. Oh my gosh, what the heck? I thought this is a little enemy camp right here. Interesting. Kelvin, get ready because we're probably gonna fight somebody. Also, I'm not sure if you can notice, but there is some bad trailing and ghosting, especially around some of the moving objects in this game. So if you can't overlook that, oh, that's a little butterfly right there. Very beautiful. Look at that. Nice thumbnail. Yeah, if you don't like the trailing or if you are prone to noticing that too much, it's gonna happen here. They kind of need to fix it still. Early access, Yeah, I think it can be fixed, and it will look decent once they do that. Oh my god, that's a big one! Kelvin... Okay, so Kelvin is dead. I think there's another one hiding inside of the bush. I'm not sure. There's another one right there. Kelvin, I'm sorry, but... Oh, he's still alive. Okay. We need to go, buddy. All right, inside of the actual forest with a lot of vegetation around you, it can drop into the 50s. Dropped to 49 there because of the stutter, so that doesn't count, I guess. Yeah, it's going to be a solid experience. Like the 69 on average tells you that it is going to be perfect. So let's move on to the 1650 now. And the 1650 is now installed in the same system. You can take a look at everything here. And we're playing at 1080p again using medium settings. Okay. Still haven't changed anything. Of course, it doesn't support DLSS, so we can't use that. Compared to the RTX 3050, oh my god, the stuttering. Yeah, we're actually running out of VRAM, first of all, so it might stutter a bit more than it did with the other card. And it is getting like, what, almost half of the FPS. So it's a major improvement going from a 1650 to a 3050. I'm not sure if that's worth it, honestly, because 3050s these days are really expensive. And you might as well go buy like a 6600 or 6600 XT from AMD. Much better value GPUs, or even the 3060. I don't know how this is the most popular GPU, honestly. Probably because it was the only affordable card during the last few years. But it is slower than the previous... Oh my god, the previous most popular card, GTX 1060. Anyways, it doesn't seem to drop too much from 30. And if it does, it's only into the higher 20s. So I guess if you use FSR 1... which is not really that great, honestly, to target like 40 frames per second. You can't set it to ultra performance and stuff like that like you can usually do. But yeah, let's try it out like this. I feel like this is going to give us the extra boost in performance to achieve 30 plus all of the time. Or maybe not, because the FPS, once again, didn't improve by all that much, and it is looking really ugly at the moment. Yeah, I'd actually stick to... native resolution, guys. Don't play on medium and stick to native res. Maybe play on low settings instead, and it's gonna be fine. Speaking of, we should lower it down. I'm also gonna disable FSR and restart the game so it fully applies everything. Here we go, back to it at 1080p using the low settings this time around, and it seems to be a lot better, but still not great. You know, getting 15 more frames per second on average is pretty damn good, or like 10 to 15 more. And you can tell the difference in smoothness, but it is no 60 frames per second, you know. We're still far from getting those results here with the 1650. I don't think it is possible, honestly, guys. Even at ultra low settings, it's not going to reach 60 all of the time. Anyways, I told you this game is really stable when it comes to the FPS you get in different areas. So you can expect a 40 to 45 FPS experience with the GTX 1650 4GB GDDR5. If you have the GDDR6 version of this GPU, you should expect around 10% more performance. That's usually the norm. You know what? I didn't really try the TAAU upscaling, so I'm gonna try that out a little bit, just see how it looks. I guess it looks a little bit better than FSR 1, but it is very pixelated. You can see the pixels around my axe, for example, whenever I am moving, and some trailing and ghosting as well, so it's not good. At least it can actually bump your FPS up to 60 FPS, but I really don't like the image like this. You should stick to native res again. Let's move on to the 1050. This is where things take a turn, my friends. PC is exactly the same, 5800X3D and so on. You can see the specs. Yeah, let's close all of this now. What are you doing? What, Kelvin? What was that? Anyways, yep. It is very cinematic, isn't it? 20s. Yay, great stuff. Now it's terrible. Whoa. There are a couple of people running here. What? What are you? Are you cannibals as well? What the heck? Yes, I think so. No? No, they don't look like the cannibals that we were used to seeing, you know? Oh, yes, and we're using the ultra-low settings already. This is not even the low settings that we were utilizing previously. That gave us like 2 less FPS or 3. I set the texture resolution to 8, whatever that means, and... absolute minimum settings, everything aside from the upscalers, which are not being utilized. You know what? Since the upscalers look so bad, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it down to 720p right away. And at 720p, it is just enough to put us above 30 FPS. At times, it might still drop here and there. I'm gonna start counting the FPS, okay? Oh my god, that's a huge jump, dudes. What the heck are you doing? Why don't you do that, like, in the water? Why in the sand? And why are you kind of surrounding me? Kelvin, I need your help. What the heck are you doing? Come over here, boy. Oh, stop chilling on top of our tent. Are you serious? How are you so light, by the way? So we're getting 40 FPS by the beach. That's pretty good. Let's go. Oh, these guys are good. No. Come on. God, nice. Kelvin, do something, please. All right, one down. Moving on into the forest, guys. Remember, we're playing at 720p absolute minimum settings, and it is not playable. Look at this. It's dropping into the 20s. How is it dropping so much? Oh, it's bad. We need upscaling, my friends. Otherwise, this happens. 23 FPS at 720p. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, all I want is 30 now. Let's try with FSR 1 and 30 FPS target, and we gain 3 frames per second. It's not even enough to put us above 30. Look at how bad it looks, by the way. It's completely unplayable now because of the resolution, not because of the FPS. So I guess if you can make do with like 25 plus frames per second all of the time, with a few drops from 25 actually, because we were seeing 22 previously, you can probably play the game with a 1050, but I guess the developers chose a GTX 1063 gigabytes for the minimum requirement GPU for a reason. Moving on to the 950 then. Oh boy. This one is quite interesting, guys. We're still running the same system, by the way, as you can see. And we're getting somewhat higher FPS than the GTX 1050. Is that right? I think so. I'm going to show you the settings. 720p resolution using the lowest settings once again. No upscalers at the moment. And yeah, it seems to be a little bit faster than the GTX 1050. How is that even possible, I hear you ask? Well, the 950 and 1050 have always been kind of neck and neck, you know? They perform very similarly to each other, and given that this 950 that we're utilizing comes overclocked out of the box, I think that's where the performance difference comes from. As you can see, it doesn't even drop from 30, actually. Wow, whoa, what just... Now we're getting really high FPS, especially looking in this direction. But everything disappeared. What the heck, bro? Oh no, what am I doing? Oh, I'm climbing some rocks, I think. No way, bro. Are you kidding me? I've played for a little bit already with the GTX 950, guys. And this didn't happen, okay? So this is totally new territory right here. Developers in the comments, please comment down below. Tell me. Oh, everything is back now. All right, so we're getting the FPS that we should get again. Okay, let's start counting the frames again, my friends. All right, now we can see it drop from 30, maybe, hopefully, I think. Otherwise, the performance difference is going to be so big compared to the 1050 that I'm questioning. Did the game load everything on the 950? I just can't know for sure. But hey, it is running and it's all right. If you have a 1050, I would strongly advise you not to buy this game and just upgrade your GPU if you really want to play Sons of the Forest. But if you have the 950, well, go ahead. I mean, it is very playable, actually, always above 30 FPS. I can see a ton of popping. I'm not sure if the 1050 had this issue as well. Yeah, that could be why we're seeing higher frames. I don't know, but I prefer this with popping than the experience that we had with the GTX 1050. So there's that, my friends. Hopefully the 750 is going to be even better now. Here we go, the 750 is now installed, running the latest Nvidia drivers, still with the same driver version because it's a Maxwell GPU, same as the 900 series architecture. And you can see right here that this one is the 1GB GDDR5 version, as I told you in the intro. I don't have the 2GB variant, but you know, it doesn't really matter. It's gonna run out of VRAM no matter what. Still using the Ryzen 7 system here with the 5800X3D, and let's go. So we're starting at 720p using the same ultra low settings, no upscaling. What the heck, Calvin? Why always on top of my tent? I don't understand. Can you make your own tent? Actually, oh boy, look at this, it's terrible. I'm gonna start counting the FPS here. The 1GB of VRAM is completely saturated, obviously, as were the 2GB on the 950 and 1050. And this one, well, it is absolutely terrible, my friends. It drops to the teens. Yep, not good. If the 1050 wasn't good, this one is just terrible. Alright, gonna stop it there, because there's just no point, right? Let's try it out with some FSR1. I'm gonna target 40 FPS. Again, if you target 30 and you can actually get 30, it might drop still into the higher 20s at times, so I prefer to target 40 to have a little bit of headroom there. But that's not enough, guys. It is still pretty much the same thing. Or maybe it was just loading. No, it still drops into the lower 20s and into the teens while looking worse. So it's basically the same experience, but more soft and more ugly. Yeah, 750 is kind of dead, right? Like, it just can't play this game properly. Oh, hello there. You're not scary at all, actually, because I can't even see you properly. Oh, what are you doing here, Kelvin? Let's check out his shelter, shall we, my friends? I don't know what the clear shelter is, as I told you. Honestly, I think I prefer it without FSR. I'm gonna disable that, okay? I prefer to be able to see things while things are horrible, and then not be able to see things, and things are horrible anyways. Oh boy, okay, I think I told him to clear the freaking shelter, not build a clear shelter. Oh, right. Well, anyways, that's it. That's it, and I'm not looking forward to the next GPUs, but let's try them out for a few seconds each. GTX 650 is next, and now we're actually using another PC to run this card with, but it doesn't matter because it's not really CPU bound in any way. It's still a Ryzen 7, the 5700G this time, 16GB of RAM in dual channel, 3200 MHz instead of 3600 MHz, and you can see all of the GPU specs once again in GPU-Z. It's a 1GB GDDR5 model of the 650. We're playing it at 720p once again using the ultra low settings, actually lowest settings, and it just can't do this, guys. The fact that it opens the game is great because a lot of developers are leaving Kepler behind, but it doesn't really matter. It can't do anything in this game. I'm gonna try it with FSR now, guys. Gonna aim for like 60 FPS. And nope, it does absolutely nothing, the upscaling here. It's still dropping. Oh no, wait a second, it's just applied now. No, but it still drops a lot. Especially when you're moving, it drops to the same values as before. Maybe slightly better, but yeah, you're gonna be looking at a really smudgy and choppy mess. It's horrible. To be honest, this was expected, especially after seeing the 750, and well, at least sometimes it can reach cinematic frame rates at 24 FPS right there, so it's not all terrible news. Oh my god, that's a huge spike there. But it is really terrible. Let's go to the Fermi crap. I mean, Fermi grandfather. And lastly, we have the Geforce GTS 450 with the latest Nvidia drivers available to it. You can see all of its specs right here in GPU-Z. Once again, it's the 1GB GDDR5 version of the card, and we're still pairing it with a Ryzen 7 5700G and 16GB of RAM. We gotta appreciate the fact that they let us launch the game with a Fermi graphics card from 13 years ago. By the way, we're playing this probably with FSR still, right? Custom settings, lowest settings. Yeah, FSR is targeting 60 frames per second. This is pretty much as good as it gets, my friends. And it's a blinking mess also. I've seen this happen with other newer titles as well, that Fermi can still open. Stuff like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is not really new, but it has this blinking vegetation problem, as well as Dying Light 2. When that worked on Fermi GPUs, it also had this blinking problem on the vegetation. But yeah, obviously this was never going to work, but it's still great that it launches the game. I'm still grateful for that, and it's very interesting to check out what these old GPUs can do. Wait a second, we can still drop the resolution to 480p with FSR and everything. That doesn't really do much, okay? Because FSR is already downscaling the resolution to a point where it's really, really low, way lower than 720p res. Yeah, there's no hope for the little GTS 450. There's no hope, in fact, for the little 750 and lower, unless you want to make the game look like absolute crap. That's been it for this one, my friends. Thank you very much for watching it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you in the next one very soon. Tomorrow is going to be a Sunday video on a very old GPU as well, so stay tuned in for that. And I have scheduled a few videos that I had made previously, but none of them will be in this game because the game just came out yesterday. And I'm filming this Friday. Alright, that's it. I still gotta edit everything, so see you soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.